Okay, so now I'm recording. All right, I want to welcome everybody to tonight's Owashtanong Islands Audubon Society meeting. We have a few announcements to start tonight. And so let's see. All right, so we have a little change in our upcoming programs, primarily because of the COVID situation. So Aaron Rowan and Joe Rogers of Wildlife Recovery Association agreed to switch their places, and hopefully by March we can meet in person again. So in February 15th, this will be a Zoom program by Aaron Rowan from Audubon Great Lakes to talk about the Grand River Coastal Corridor, and it's an Audubon priority area. On the 15th of March, Joe Rogers will hopefully be able to come and bring live birds from the Wildlife Recovery Association, and so we should hopefully have our program in the library. We also are planning a meeting in April. One of the graduate students at Grand Valley is going to be talking about his project, looking at HWA and forest and bird communities. And hopefully we'll be able to have a potluck and annual business meeting on the 17th of May. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to OIAS's YouTube channel. And I'm recording tonight's session, and I will get it up on the YouTube channel sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours. We're also working with Loudoun District Library to be able to live stream our future in-person programs to both our Facebook page and to the library's Facebook page. And so that means that people who aren't able to attend because for a variety of reasons will be able to watch our live programs. We're also planning an April field trip, so look for news about that. And we're also planning our participation in Earth Day 2022 on April 23rd in Central Park in Grand Haven. And if you have ideas for the 2022 to 2023 program, ideas for those programs, please bring those to members of the board of directors, and we can start working on lining up those programs. And again, like everybody, we hope that we're in person again. Oops. Right. Also, this time of year, we're also in the middle of a project Feeder Watch. So if you just go to feederwatch.org online, you can find information about signing up for that. And if you're not a member, please consider becoming a member of the Owashtanong Islands Audubon Society. You can find us at our website, oias.org. Membership is inexpensive, $18 for an individual or for a family. Oops. And so I just want to get started here with tonight's program so Carl and Judy can get going. I know they have a lot to talk about. So they're going to be talking about yes, I hear a question. So they'll be talking about Jamaica Endemic, birds, coffee, and food. Carl and Judy are longtime members of OIAS and are co-authors on a very valuable resource, The Birds of Ottawa County. And if you're a birder in Ottawa County, I really recommend you getting that book, and it's available. Should still be available at Hemlock Crossing County Park. All right. So I'm going to let Carl and Judy take it away. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, and I will attempt to.
There you go.
Now people see it. Okay, now we got it. This is the first timer, so
a life or experience.
Yeah, a life or experience, right?
All right, Jamaica. All right, I want to go to Jamaica with me. This is cool. All right, got it. This is good.
okay. So as Michael said, this is Jamaica Endemics, birds, coffee, and food. And we're presenting tonight. And thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you, Michael, for the gracious note on our book. It is, I think, quite useful. So let's get started. How do I get rid of this over here?
Hit view options at the top. You don't have view options. I don't think you can get rid of it. Option, ignore it again.
No, I can't see everything.
Here. I
Okay.
don't know. It's time to get rid of the people.
There,
on the-
I got it.
People on
I
the
got it.
side there. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. We went to Jamaica in 2020. Last couple of weeks or last week of February. We're coming in here into Montego Bay, and our itinerary basically was to one night at Montego Bay and then take the northern route along the northern shore to the east end of the island, where we do some hikes around Greencastle Estate, where we're headed, and then into Ecclesdown Road, Jim Crow Mountains, Blue Mountains, and then back into Montego Bay. For those of you who are not familiar with Jamaica, it's about 90 miles south of Cuba. It's the third largest island in the Caribbean after Cuba and Hispaniola. The population about 2.9 million. It's the third most populous Anglophone country. It's a new word I learned. English speaking. And most of the population is African descent. They're ranked first in the Caribbean in the World Happiness Report. And they live up to their motto, out of many, one people. A few facts. Jamaica is home to 289 species of birds, 27 are endemic. They have the world's largest centipede. Well, I don't think it's just endemic there. Many butterflies, including the Western Hemisphere's largest, the Jamaican swallowtail. 3,000 species of plants, including many species of orchids, and 8 species of snakes. None are venomous, so that's one to keep in mind.
Carl, I don't want to interrupt you, but what does cockpit country for black-billed parrots mean?
What's that?
It's your slide said cockpit country for black-billed
Oh, I'll
parrots.
get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Well, in a bit.
Yeah. It'll be a couple of slides down, but we'll talk about cockpit country. Early history kind of reads like most of the islands in the Caribbean, inhabited thousands of years ago. The Taino were endemic Indian people. They call the island Zimaca. And they were the people there at the beginning of the contact when Columbus first encountered the people in 1492. First settlement by the Spanish was in 1509. They introduced 2 things that really shaped the island's future: sugar and slaves. By the end of the 16th century, the Taino population pretty much wiped out because, as we hear, most of the islands, ill treatment and diseases. So the Spanish were the first to import African slaves. Slaves that were able to escape formed their own communities up in the mountains, became known as the Maroons. English took an interest in 1655 and recaptured the island, but to try to keep the Spanish out, they promoted pirates, and as a result, Jamaica became a very large pirate hangout. So with the English came a lot of sugarcane and piracy. In the 1670s, the English developed sugarcane plantations. By the 19th century, Jamaica dependent on slave labor and plantation economy resulted in black people outnumbering white 20-1, mainly slaves. Finally, the end of slavery starts in 1807, 1831, a huge rebellion. So Britain outlawed slavery, but not outlawed the institution, but not slavery. Well, until 1838 that full emancipation occurred. The British began then to import indentured servants, basically Indian, from India. In 1866, Jamaica becomes a crown colony. In 1962, they obtained full independence from England. So politically, Jamaica is a commonwealth with Elizabeth as its queen. Then an appointed governor general holds the office on site, along with a prime minister, and legislative, a senate appointed by the prime minister, and a House of Representatives elected. Interestingly, when Jamaica gained independence, murder rate was very low. By 2009, it had risen significantly. So the first day we stayed at the Mint Retreat in Montego Bay. Very nice little place, fairly small. Just some things we saw around our room. And the first thing out the door, one of our first endemics. As you notice, names, you'll see a script E that indicates that it's endemic to Jamaica. This is a female red-billed streamer tail. And a look out from our window onto Montego Bay. And here's where we talk about some geography. There are 3 landforms. And here's where we mention cockpit country. I'll start in the middle. Most of the islands of the Caribbean were inundated by sea at some point, which laid down a whole lot of limestone, sometimes thousands of feet thick. In the cockpit country, it's a karst area that's pockmarked with steep-sided hollows up to 50 feet deep. I'd also heard that the other name came because that was kind of a hotbed of cockfighting, which kind of ended up fitting into that name. Along the east is the highest mountains, the Blue Mountains and Jim Crow Mountains. Blue Mountain is the highest at 7,400 feet. And along the north shore, where we were, is all eroded, fairly rugged coastline. Now, there's some areas on the south side where the cliffs drop straight off 900 some feet. And then the west coastline up over here is the best beaches. And that's where you'll find some of mainly the resorts. Climate, I'd like to be there right now. You know, it's about 80 degrees in the day, 70 at night. It was quite pleasant. One thing to know that Jamaica is in the hurricane belt, so you got to be a little careful there. Our first breakfast was ackee and saltfish. That's seeds. Actually, it's the pulp around the seeds of the ackee tree, and it's a spongy white flesh. Looks like scrambled egg. Kind of tastes like scrambled egg, but you got to be careful. You don't eat the seeds. You don't eat the skin. Some of that's toxic. And saltfish is just typically dried cod. But that's and that's what we had. Some of it looks a little interesting, but this is boiled plantain and rutabaga and a potato. And then here you can see the ackee. Birding off the porch at the Mint. And so our first birds.
Don't go so fast on the pictures. Let me see that one.
The white-headed pigeon. And we had kestrels, a pair of them were flying around. I think they were nesting somewhere in the area. And for you electricians, a little bit of interesting electrical work. All through a parakeet is throughout the western end, especially. We didn't see too many on the eastern side. Everybody hearing that? That's Jamaican crow. Kind of an odd sounding crow. Jamaican woodpecker.
Not hearing it. Cindy didn't hear it. So it's not producing. Okay.
Uh,
Oh,
it may not have been turned up high enough. Northern mockingbird is found there. We found a nice morsel on the grounds. So our first full day of the trip, we traveled from the Mint to Greencastle. And Greencastle is an estate over here at the northeast end of the island. So we're on our way. Some of the construction projects, typically you see the rebar sticking up. Just a little bit on economy. Very heavily tourist oriented, 4 million tourists a year. 1940 they discovered bauxite, which is the ore for alumina. Shifted some of the economy from sugar and bananas. But sugar is still one of the largest employers in the country. Official language is standard English, but you find a whole lot of patois, things like wapping or nuff. Typically, you drop the R at the end of words like water, sugar, so wada, sugar. And common greetings are wagwan, which even President Barack Obama had used on his visit. Religion, just quickie. It's mainly the Christian faith, but what I found some things on Rastafari which were interesting. It's a monotheistic belief system based on the Old and New Testament, but they believe in the divinity of Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. Bob Marley, one of the high-profile exponent of the system, and cultural traditions include wearing their hair in uncut, uncombed strands, known as dreadlocks, and use of cannabis, which is outlawed by the country. So it's a bit of a tension there. Lunch stop was at Father Bull Restaurant and Jerk Center. Most restaurants are jerk centers, which is where they serve jerk chicken and jerk pork. And it's right on the ocean, or on the Caribbean, within probably 5 feet. It was right on the shore. So we had some shorebirds flying around and looking out at some of the fishing boats. And frigate birds sailing by. Here's our guide, Eric Hines. He's from Colorado. Very good guide. We had a great time with him. And he's with Field Guides Incorporated. Raymond was our bus driver and general manager, actually, of the tour company that provided the bus. And looking out the window, we see a guy getting fish ready, probably the fish for our meal. And looking here at steam fish, that was what I chose. And it's kind of a delicacy there. And I cleaned it up.
Stop.
Notice the red stripe beer. That's an endemic beer. We had some rain on the trip, but most of the time it didn't bother us much. And late in the day, we get to Greencastle Estate. We're actually standing in front of the door of our room right here. It's a fairly long drive up from the coast on some 2-track gravel roads, so it's well secluded, but very nice and very comfortable. More view from our window. Greencastle Estate is 1,600 acres. It varied over the years. Started a large holding in 1712. It got broken up some, then pulled back together. Cacao culture was started, and because it was better for that climate, and it was a high yield cash crop. They have some farming and some grazing. Kind of give you a feel for where things are. This is St. Anne's Bay, so it's the Caribbean. They think that Columbus landed the first time somewhere in this area. The estate where we stayed is in the middle of the property here. And we'll see something of the Spanish Tower in a little bit. Interesting as well. Eventually this converted to sugar, but they've also grown bananas, cacao, and orchids. Some of the flowers right near the estate. The next day we spend the entire day at Greencastle, hiking some of the trails. Goats everywhere. We met several people herding their goats. Here's Dwayne Swaby. He's the local guide. Very good guide. He knew where the birds were. Found the birds for us. Here he's telling us about allspice, one of the ingredients in Jamaican jerk seasoning. And this is the national bird, but also an endemic. Really cool bird. And we saw them just about everywhere. Really nice. We're walking down one of the birding trails at Green Acres. And some of the views off from the trail. Jamaican lizard cuckoo. They do eat lizards. And you'll find lizard cuckoos on several of the islands, because there's a Cuban version and a Hispaniolan version and so on. Some of the trees look a little wicked to try to climb. And a little rain. Make sure you take your rain gear. This day got a little bit damp. Another endemic, the Jamaican mango. He's a smaller guy, not real small, bigger than a ruby throat, but easily seen. Some anoles. This was on a chair in the dining area. And a big bug on the chair. The two beers that are the most common, Red Stripe and Dragon Stout, they're both from the same company. Two people merged their soft drink companies in 1918 to form a single entity, and 10 years later they were brewing Red Stripe beer. Dragon Stout is a darker, but similar to the Red Stripe. Next day, we traveled west from Greencastle, and into Oco Rios, a small kind of resort town, and Dunn's River Falls, pretty well known in the area, state park. We're driving down the road. Nice forest preserve here. We're looking for some endemics. We find the yellow-crowned night heron staying there waiting for us. And the national tree. Inner bark was known as Cuba bark because it was used for tying bundles of Havana cigars. So in the forest reserve, we find this huge tree. They're very large, 80 feet or more. The legend has the trees are haunted because they were used to hang slaves and criminals. And Jamaicans believe duppies live in this tree. They're kind of spirits. They grow an elliptical fruit that's contains many seeds, but also a cottony mass of fiber that's kapok, which is good for sleeping bags and especially for life preservers. They're used a lot in the World War II. It's the national tree of Guatemala. Eric had a story here, but I can't repeat it because I can't remember it all. But he made it very humorous. Antillian grackles are quite common, bigger than the grackles we see here. So here we have another endemic rufous-tailed flycatcher. You see over here, he's got some insects. And they're found pretty deep in the forest. We found a Jamaican Bacard making a nest. You can see the huge ball of fiber he's put together. Local names, the mountain dick or Judy. Judy like that. Always find big spiders when you go in the tropics. This is a golden silk orb weaver. He was probably half the size of your hand. Fruit stands, a lot of small stands, people selling their wares. Houses are quite nice for the most part. Don't remember what town this was, but along the north shore, there's a number of settlements, and also you'll find a lot of very large resorts, and always goats. Didn't realize it, but Ian Fleming wrote all of his books, all 14, at his villa in Goldeneye. And looking for a name for his character, he had a book by birdwatcher James Bond, Birds of the Caribbean, and I thought, well, that's just what I need. So it was originally told his wife, this brief, unromantic, Anglo-Saxon yet very masculine name was just what I needed. So a second James Bond was born. So he based his creation on individuals he met his time in naval intelligence, and basically the compound of all the secret agents, commando types he had met. one of the films, Dr. No, was filmed partly in Oco Rios and at Dunn's River Falls. Other parts at the bauxite docks and also in the mines. Some of the car chase scenes were done in the open pit mines. There's a list here of all of his novels. We won't go through those, but you look at the dates, it's about one a year. He went through almost once a year he wrote a book. I almost think this is a Big Mac, or it's basically the same thing. I mentioned the Spanish Tower. There's a little bit of it there. This is a 300 to 500-year-old windmill tower that was built to process sugarcane. And if you look inside, they're carbon dated some of the timbers they found. They dated back to the 14th or 15th century, possibly from a Spanish ship or a Spanish building. See all the piercings in the wall here? Those are from construction. They didn't have a means to winch the stone, so they put logs across 3 to 5 foot intervals, and then when they took them out, they left the holes for the pockets there. On the inside, basically was a shaft with 2 rollers one on each side, turned by the windmill, and that's what they used to crush sugarcane. Another view from our Greencastle room. And some of the things we found close by. Hermit crabs up on the trail. We were probably 2 or 3 miles from the ocean. So he probably climbed up there, and they said they climbed quite a ways. Or just of the forest area. Northern potoos are very good at concealing themselves. We almost walked past this one. You can see how they orient themselves right against on a snag, so they look like an extension of a broken limb. And he just sat there. He wasn't very far away, just napping. They're a nightjar. And in fact, one night we were treated to them catching bugs right outside of our dining area. Well, this is a cute one. Jamaican toady. Again, there are toadies in several of the islands. There's Cuban toady, and I think there's 2 on Hispaniola. But it's a little related to flycatchers. Very colorful. Usually not too scared of people, so you get fairly close and get some nice pictures of them. Jamaican owl. We went out one evening, and this is a tough one to find, but on Greencastle Estate, they're usually around. And we walked up trail for a ways, and we could hear them calling. Couldn't find them. We walked back a different direction, could hear them calling, couldn't find them. We're just about to give up, walking our way out, and one called again right near us. And
Cindy said they weren't working.
I'm not sure if you're hearing this.
Cindy said no.
Okay, I'll play it for a second.
Cindy said it
Okay. Next day we go east to Ecclesdown Road, and it's at the foothills of the Jim Crow Mountains. Some views on the way. We started out actually before dawn. Well, the first thing we saw was a barn owl along the road. And just a quick point on the national bird Jamaica, I mentioned him, the streamer tail or doctor bird. Called that because the long tail resembles the long tail coats the doctors used to wear. There used to be streamer tail. There's now subspecies, the red-billed and the black-billed, and we're on our way to see the black-billed. They're likely to be split into two species at some point. So here's the two. They're very similar, but color of the bill is totally different. A little thinner bill. This was probably one of the ones we really wanted to see there, the chestnut-bellied cuckoo. And he accommodated us fairly well. It's a very large cuckoo. Like most cuckoos, kind of quiet, kind of shy. Few of the butterflies we saw. Saw Jamaican peewees in a few places. Kind of similar to what we have here, but this is an endemic, so he's only in Jamaica. This is Ecclesdown Road. It's not a super highway. In fact, we didn't see any.
Single lane traffic.
Oh, yeah. Judy mentioned the sign says single lane traffic.
It's jerky. It's jerky.
Judy says hers is playing rather jerky, so I apologize if it's not playing as well as we had hoped. This is the way to get your coconut water as fresh as you can get it. What you hear crying are the goats. Stuck. There we go. Trying to. There we go.
Still here. Oh, there it goes.
There's Dwayne finishing up one of the coconuts. Another famous Jamaican that we actually drove past the high school he went to. 8-time Olympic gold medalist. Of course, his nickname, Lightning Bolt. He's now retired. Oops. And then need to mention Bob Marley, one of the pioneers of reggae. His greatest hit album, Legend, was released in '84 and became a best-selling album, more than 75 million records sold. I mentioned his melanoma here because there's something I didn't realize, and something maybe somebody just make you aware. This particular melanoma is not sunlight related, and it actually showed up under his big toe. There's toenail. So it's something that could pop up and not even be sunlight related. It is more prevalent in dark-skinned people. Okay. We had a little Bob Marley, but apparently the sound isn't working. The title was Three Little Birds. On the way back, we stopped in Boston. Kind of well known for its jerk chicken pork. This was a great meal. So here they're grilling the chicken on coals of pimento wood with the spices, and we're enjoying more red stripe beer. These are called Festival. They're kind of like a deep fried cornbread. Go quite well with the chicken. A lot of little shops along some of the roads, especially in the Blue Mountains, where there's tourists on the weekends. Nudity Up is a slogan trying to convince people to keep the island clean. It's a way to try to get the word out not to litter. So if you translate that, it kind of comes out to don't litter or don't dirty up. There's even a website, notdirtyupjamaica.org, where they explain the reasons for recycle and littering. There are some big private yachts that come in. On one fish, the blue heron's probably thinking, that looks like pretty good. Or one of the inlets that we stopped at looking for birds. Notice the gas prices. First thing to realize is that it's about 10 Jamaican dollars per US dollar. That still makes it about $16 a gallon. So fuel is not cheap there. Found this frangipani hornworm at the Greencastle Estate. It's it's a very large caterpillar, but what makes it distasteful is that it eats toxic plants. Except smooth-billed Ani has figured it out, and he tears it apart, avoids the poisonous part, and eats the rest of the caterpillar. They also have hairs that stick in the skin and cause irritation, and they will bite. So they're best to leave them alone. It's been recorded occasionally as far north as northeastern United States. Okay, now we're heading into the Blue Mountains and looking for Blue Mountain coffee, along with some pretty good endemic birds. We're heading up the mountain. Find these old shacks again, mostly selling coffee. One of the roads, actually this one, I think the bus went up the hill. We took a shortcut along a little footpath. We had lunch first though. Notice we're up in the mountains a bit. We can see some of us wearing jackets and vests. It's a little cooler, quite hilly. we're taking a walk, looking for the next bird. I didn't find names for any of these. This guy up here is a skipper, is all I found. But interesting things. Get out the rain, get out the umbrellas. May need them. We find a blue mountain vireo. They're kind of little skulkers, but one came out and will give us a nice look. Jamaican spindalis. Again, there's spindalis in a couple other areas. Very colorful. It's in the tanager family. Up the tree, got to find something. Crested quail dove, also known as the mountain witch. Usually quite hard to find. And if you're going to find one, it'll be up in the tree and usually hear them calling first. I think we saw about 4, but that was probably lucky. We got this one early in the morning, and that was one of the target birds we wanted to get. Ring-billed pigeon, ring-tailed pigeon, sorry. Those are more numerous. Some really wicked looking bamboo thorns. We're headed off to the coffee plantations. Notice over here, there's all coffee on the hillside here. Well, legend has it at least that King Louis the 15th sent 3 coffee plants. One survived and was grown in Martinique. And then in 9 years, it exported their first coffee. We got some, this is actually our purchase. It's not cheap there either. Cheaper than here, but the Blue Mountain coffee is excellent. And the nice thing about going to Jamaica is you drink it every morning for breakfast. It was there waiting for us at Greencastle every morning. These are raw coffee beans before roasting. So taking a little break in the coffee roaster's house, basically. Just moving along, working our way back down the mountains. View out over. I don't remember where that was. On our way down from Hardwire Gap. See here, one of the trucks recycling bottles. I think that great egret found himself something. He's got something in the water there. On the way into Greencastle Estate, this brown owl was out in broad daylight, getting close to evening, but we got some really nice pictures of him. This is one of our catered noon lunches. Rice and peas is a staple in Jamaica. It's either black-eyed peas or kidney beans, but it's always called rice and peas. bit on jerk cooking. It's traced to Jamaica and refers to the spices used and also the slow cooking over pimento wood. Curry also became part of Jamaica culture, brought in from the Indian servants. And rum. Some of the best rum is made in Jamaica. Appleton is I think one of the ones I found that's one of the oldest and the best. Our final day, we're heading back from Greencastle. We're going to stop here in Cockpit Country, look for some parrots actually. And then on to Rockland Bird Sanctuary, and we'll see that in a bit. Remember I mentioned you drop the ER, wada. So wada with wow is water. Stewarttown. There's a road going out of Stewarttown that is where we usually, or where the guides usually stop for these parrots. And we saw this sign in a lot of places. It's my intention to apply for a tavern and spirits license at the next licensing session to be held at Falmouth or wherever. And these signs you can see have been there forever. So that's as far as they get. They don't actually have a license number. We get yellow-billed parrots. We've seen those a couple of times. But the real key here was getting the black-billed parrot. It was the only place you could find them was in Cockpit Country. Sad flycatcher. There's also a stolen flycatcher. We didn't get a picture of him. He's not an endemic, but the sad is kind of looks like a Monarchus or flycatcher, but he's a cute little guy. We're getting ready for lunch. Guy just showed up, says he wanted to wash the bus. I think hoping for some payment. So Raymond let him wash the bus. Where we were standing there, I noticed there's all kinds of bottle caps, and they've been there for many years, it looks like, but they're all compacted into the concrete or the asphalt. Lots of colorful buildings. Another stop at Father Bull on the way back. We have brown pelican flying by. And curry goat. Another popular dish. One thing we found is that Jamaicans don't seem to mind leaving the bones in. Lots of bones in this, bones in the fish. It's just the way they eat. And you get used to it. We're on our way to Rockland Bird Sanctuary, and here we're overlooking Montego Bay. It's just south of Montego Bay. So now I get up really close to Jamaican mango. Look at the color on this tail here. And ruddy quail dove. That was my lifer. Judy had seen one in Cuba, so now we caught up. Caribbean dove is fairly common. Inadequate, seen everywhere. Kind of give you a feel for back home, black-throated blue warbler. He's wintering. Orange quit, one of the tanagers. And one of the things the Rocklands is known for is feeding the hummingbirds. You hold this little bottle of nectar, and they'll come up and feed it from your finger. So we have a new bird here, the yellow-shouldered grassquit, one we haven't seen before, an endemic. Driving back, saw these guys sitting on a bunch of conduit sticking out of the truck on the way. They were driving down the road. Everybody on their cell phones. So it's time to leave. So there are 326 species seen in Jamaica, 28 endemics. We saw 103, of which 26 were endemic. The only endemic we missed was the Jamaican blackbird. Could not find one. We spent hours. That was one of the key ones they wanted to find. The next tour that came 2 weeks later did find one or two. Now we leave, head for Atlanta. Yeah, 6-hour layover. We've realized we don't have a checklist in Georgia, so let's go find something. So we found a turkey vulture, a couple of house sparrows, a couple of starlings. We're walking around and found this exhibit, just using refuse and recycled materials. And we're on our way. We get home about 5 o'clock. And thank you to our guides, the staff at the Mint and the Green Acres, Judy for PowerPoint, and some references. Mainly, a lot of stuff came out of Wikipedia, and then some of the Jamaican websites. Oh, I'd entertain any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure there's time. Some people have some questions. We have some time for a few questions. So just if you want to ask Carl or Judy a question, just unmute yourself and have at it.
Oh, I am unmuted, I think. Oh,
Did you get to see the centipede?
no, we didn't.
Yeah, that centipede was in James Bond, Dr. No book.
Oh,
But in the movie, they used a tarantula because it looked more threatening.
Unshare the screen or something because I can't see anything.
oh.
Oh, no, just leave it alone. I got it.
Judy and Carl, I'm so jealous. I've been to Jamaica 3 times and I have scoured over my photos because they were all before I was birding. And I always took pictures of birds when I traveled, but I do not have a single bird in any of my photos from my honeymoon in 1985 or my 10-year anniversary or a later trip to Negril.
Oh, no.
But I've been to Ocho Rios, I've been to Duns River Falls, I've been to so many places and there must have been birds around me and dang it, I'll have to go back. It was lovely, thank you.
If I were to go again, I'd do Green Castle again. The food was great, the people were great, and a state that size, they've got lots of places to go and see birds.
I've not been there, but I wish I had thought to ask you to purchase some Blue Mountain coffee for me and bring it back. That stuff is delicious.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how many women were on the trip.
Do you remember, Judy?
There was another couple and it might have been only 2 of us. I'm not sure.
That's what I kind of was trying to figure out.
I'd have to look at that, Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the list. I'll let you know
Oh,
separately.
it's not important. I just didn't see very many and I thought, oh dears, was she the only woman? Then I saw one
No,
more.
there
and I
was another woman that was next to us and she locked herself out of her.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She locked, well, the owner was at Green Castle with us and he came and checked something in her room and I don't have going on and locked her door and left the keys outside. So we're in bed and Carl goes, she's calling you. I hear Judy, Judy, and she's calling through the walls. So I had to go out and unlock her.
Oh my gosh.
So there were like 3 of us. We were the only ones in that whole section, so that was okay.
I forgot to mention, I was gonna, I'm sorry.
Oh, now we're,
I should turn mine off again.
one of the participants was a German guy. And he carried through the entire trip a Canon 400 f2.8, which weighs about 4 pounds plus the body. But he got some fantastic pictures. It was a bit of a chore to carry that around the whole time. But it looked like he had done that a lot. The lens looked like it had been used extensively.
And it did rain a lot. And we had a meteorologist from New York. And the poor guy, they kept asking him what the weather was in the Caribbean. And he was basically like, well, this is what it looks like today. But, you know, he's from New York. So whatever he could contact down there. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, the weather patterns were a bit different. It kind of kept him on his toes.
So any other questions? Well, if there aren't any other questions, then thank you very much again, Carl and Judy. And everybody, please join us in February for Erin Rowan. And again, we'll be doing a Zoom program and Judy and Carl will send out the information for that so that everybody can join in. And also you'll probably be able to find, not probably, you will be able to find information about it on the Loudoun District Library's webpage and on their Facebook page. Right?
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank everybody for joining in, and I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you for coming.
Yep. And as I said, I'll post this on